So this is Mercy TV, Wednesday night meeting, I believe the 10th of April.
Hello, welcome to Mercy TV, our Wednesday night meeting. We'd like to remind our audience that we are both live streaming and videotaping the show. So don't blurt out anything you don't want broadcast around the world here. The purpose of this Wednesday night meeting is to network folks on the issues that we're going through concerning the medical cannabis program here in Oregon. Those are including, but not limited to, getting your card, finding medicine now, also finding resources in the long term, whether you're going to be growing yourself or having someone grow for you. Also, best methods of medicating, changes to the system, whether it's a change for you or changes to the system rather. Hello and welcome to folks out there in virtual land. Welcome to our Wednesday weekly meeting hosted by Mercy, the Medical Cannabis Resource Center. We are a non-profit organization dedicated to doing outreach, help desking, and networking on and through the medical cannabis issue, both here in Oregon, across America, and around the world. Please visit our mercycenters.org/world page for a list of the countries that we currently networking with. And also see our mercycenters.org/USA page for information on medical cannabis issue in all 50 states. Folks are frequently going there to find out what's the best state to retire to. We need to get a little widget set up on our USA page where people can sort down by condition and then adjust the columns by how much the program costs and how much medicine you get, which are the next two questions that usually come when we're getting calls from outside of Oregon. Folks are saying that they need medical cannabis for themselves or a loved one, and what can they do? What are the options? Well, obviously options are change the law, get the law changed in your state. Also an option is changing the law at the federal level, so we don't all have to go through this nonsense. So, as I was saying, welcome to the weekly meeting. Our main purpose is to match up growers and patients here. So that's one of the first things we ask is how many patients are here looking for a grower, and vice versa. Are there growers that are looking for patients here? So none here tonight, looks like. But we'll see next week. Folks keep coming back, and also go online, look at our bulletin boards, which are also set up there for folks to network on the issue. While we're waiting for some more folks to tune in, both online and over the phone, over the internet, we'll bring up some more information. On what's happening, here around the Northwest. In fact, we got Hempfest season is coming up upon us, and so we'll be having the Eugene Emerald Empire Hempfest will be happening in Eugene, and we'll be there. We'll have a booth there for folks. It'll be happening 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's the third weekend in July. Be sure not to miss it. Shortly after that, on July 28th, will be the Merciful Ultimate Louisiana Party. That'll be happening at the Bear Creek Saloon. And we encourage everybody to be there. It's going to be a nice, fun time for all. Whip out some more event things. Of course, we have the weekly meeting, happens every Wednesday here. There's our Friday night live call-in show. So tune in to us here on Channel 23, Fridays, 7 p.m. Make sure you have something to write on, something to write with, to get all the good information that's going to be coming out on that. The Mercy Live Call-In Show, Fridays, 7 p.m., Channel 23. There's also the monthly TV show, which we film on the last Friday. It'll be happening April 26th. Folks can come on down to the station and participate as audience in our monthly show. That happens at 7:30 on Friday, the last Friday of the month. It's April 26th. And we don't want to forget about the March for Global, Global Marijuana Marches. It's happening in hundreds of cities around the world. It happens here in Salem on May 4th. That's a Saturday at high noon. We assemble about 11 o'clock. Starts at the, what is the official, at Summer and Center Streets, that little T intersection there is where we assemble. We march around the city here in Salem. And so folks should mark their calendars. Saturday, May 4th, high noon, the Salem March for Global Cannabis Liberation. There's also a march happening in Eugene. There's a march happening in Portland. There's somebody registered to march in Bend. Medford is also having a march. So visit our webpage, get the contacts, tell folks you know in Medford, Eugene, Portland to check out their local Global Marijuana March event happening first Saturday in May. This year it's May 4th. Monday, May 6th, and every first Monday of the month, there's the public meetup of SweetNet, a medical cannabis resource network for patients as well as cardholders to be. Happens in Sweet Home, Oregon. That's at, again, 7 p.m. in Sweet Home at the American Legion Hall. May 7th, every first Tuesday of the month, Intro to OMA, the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act, offers a practical explanation of the Medical Marijuana Act, your rights and responsibilities, how to apply for a card, all that fun stuff. And June is the next planned advisory committee on medical marijuana, their next quarterly meeting. Is happening. Give us a minute here. While we're waiting, remind you that the Wake and Bake this year is happening at a private location. It's near Vernonia, Oregon, and it's going to be happening June 1st. So if you want to get to the Wake and Bake this year, you'll need to contact us, get your RSVP, and find out where it's happening, get all directions and stuff. The Wake and Bake is our pancake breakfast and camp out getaway, and it is a private party, so folks will need to check in with us, get the address for it, so do so. Give us a call at 503-363-4588 or visit us on the web at mercystenders.org to get more information about this year's Wake and Bake happening June 4th or June 1st in and around Vernonia, Oregon this year. But the Advisory Committee on Medical Marijuana, or ACMM, is meeting June 14th, and this will be in the Medford-Ashland area. The exact address is to be announced. So we're going to be taking a trip this time. July 19th through the 21st, That's a Friday through Sunday, the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest at Maury Jacobs Park. Free to the public, all ages welcome. July 28th, the Merciful Ultimate Louisiana Party at the Bear Creek Saloon in Scio. Seattle Hemp Fest happening in Seattle, oddly enough. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, August 16th through the 18th. August 23rd and 24th, music event featuring Henry Turner Jr., who will also be playing at the Merciful Ultimate Louisiana Party. This is happening at Papa G's Backlight Lounge on 610 Marion Street, Salem. August 23rd, 25th, the Jefferson State Music Festival and Hemp Expo happens in Takilma, Oregon. In Cave Junction area there. And August 24th, 25th is the Olympia Hemp Fest. And let us not forget Saturday, September 7th and Sunday, September 8th, that Hemp Stock is happening in Portland, Oregon. So keep yourselves posted to mercycenters.org, our events section. Keep you tuned to all the hemp fests that are happening. We'll also be setting up a section for all the places that the bands that are playing at the hemp fest will be playing, so you get an extra chance to check out the music there and enjoy some more of it. Some of these places will also be doing activism activities as well, so you get a chance to pick up literature, things like that nature. So, if there's any no questions or comments from the peanut gallery. We'll look some more at the news items here. Mercy's latest newsletter is out. We encourage folks to pick up some as many copies of it as you can. Spread them out, because in this month's newsletter we're talking about the bill to add PTSD to the OMMP. That is Senate Bill 281, which is going to add post-traumatic stress disorder to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. Is currently moving to the floor for a vote. So we need for everybody to contact their representatives and get them to vote yes on this bill when it comes before them. Sure.
So this last Monday, we went to the Capitol. We heard about 3 bills. Can you explain about that?
Okay, there were 3 bills heard earlier this week. It was on Monday. They were being heard before the Committee on Health Care. There was House Bill 3055, which was to change the number of patients that could be registered at a particular location. This was one that was put forth by law enforcement, I believe in the Southern Oregon, Medford area. This was to combat what they said was a big problem of too much marijuana, particularly near children. Also was heard in that committee was a House Bill 3460 and House Bill 2919, which were to set up methods for folks to basically dispense cannabis or medical marijuana here in Oregon. There's currently no means for folks to exchange for consideration or dispense cannabis. So these laws would enable, at least in the case of 3460, it would enable growers to be reimbursed for their labor hopefully opening up that avenue for more cannabis to be made available to the community. 2919 is going to set up medical cannabis facilities for folks with excess to take, where they can then sell it to them. I believe that 3460 has an extra provision in there that would require testing of the cannabis, and there's probably a couple of other items that we want to make folks aware about. So we're definitely going to be watching those bills and keeping folks apprised of them, particularly what they can do to either help move them forward or stop them, as the case may be. We definitely want to keep an eye on this 3055, which is an attempt to limit growers in a particular area. It's actually working to limit the number of plants, to restrict the amount of cannabis medicine. And have to keep our eyes on it, because being put forth by prohibitionists, it's undoubtedly going to be harmful to the community, and indeed probably all of Oregon as well. But our focus is kind of divided, because there is a number of bills in play. There's not just the 2 dispensary bills, but there's also a legalization bill in committee being discussed. It will have another hearing soon, we believe. We'll keep folks posted on it. There's several bills that are involving sentencing and other minor aspects. Minor, I guess, unless you're the one having to go through the crud. But we've got, first off, Senate Bill 82, which is to remove the automatic 6-month suspension of your license for a marijuana possession charge. A lot of folks get tagged with that one, not knowing that it's even there. It's an extremely heinous one. It applies whether or not you're driving or not, and we have an opportunity to take that little nasty little clause of the drug war out by itself with Senate Bill 82. So we hope folks will contact their representatives, make sure they support that if it, when and if it comes to the floor. There's also Senate Bill 40 and House Bills 3194 and 3195, which are to change penalties for possession and manufacturing of cannabis, aka marijuana. So we hope that those get through, even if the others don't, and we can at least get a little relief from the pot war here in Oregon, which is being acknowledged more and more by everyone to be a total waste, a total drain on Oregon, society, community, business-wise, and culture-wise. And this past time, we stopped the waste of the war, got those dollars back, as well as the dollars that would be from the industry be seen here in Oregon. And it's important to note that the biggest gain here in Oregon would be not from the medical side, which would be no small potatoes, but once we end the war and hemp is allowed, then we're really going to see a boom here in Oregon. All those wood mills that were closing down throughout Oregon would then have a new product to be processed, to be gone through, informing the new the hemp board that would be coming out from hemp happening in Oregon. But we've got to make it happen, folks, and to do so you need to contact your legislators and start with Senate Bill 281 to add PTSD to the OMP. You know, let's start to identify who the prohibitionists and who our true leaders are. So again, we encourage folks to come on by, get a copy of the Mercy newsletter. In addition, you can pick up your latest version of the Oregon Cannabis Connection. Has a lot of important information in there, news, events, recipes, and a lot of ads, and just plain listings for resources, all kinds of clinics, dispensaries such as they are in Oregon, and things of that nature. So come down and get one of those, as well as your Mercy newsletter. We also have some Willamette Valley Normal newsletters, and in them you'll find things like this report of the study: at-home marijuana gardens are not associated with adverse health effects among children. Children residing in homes where marijuana is cultivated do not suffer from adverse health effects at any greater rate than do comparative children in cannabis-free environments, according to a study in press in the International Journal of Drug Policy. A pair of investigators with the University of British Columbia School of Social Work compared the household family and individual characteristics of 181 children found living in homes with cannabis grow operations in 2 regions in the British Columbia, Canada area. Data was collected on site regarding the physical characteristics of the homes, the health characteristics of the children residing in the homes, and the adolescent's prescription drug history. Investigators also compared the rates of the subject's prescription drug use with that of a group of children from the same geographic areas. Researchers reported no significant difference between the health of the children living in the cannabis grow operations and the comparison group of children based on their prescription history and their reported health at the time. They concluded the findings of this study challenge the contemporary child welfare approaches and have implications for both child protection, social workers, and the policymakers who develop frameworks for practice. Although there is little argument that the physical hazards found in cannabis grow operations pose a risk to children and adults living in the homes, the associated health risks are not as clear. Policymakers involved in establishing frameworks and protocols for responding to these unique child welfare cases must consider the absence of clinical evidence to indicate these children are unwell and whether there are grounds for child welfare intervention. We have to point out that the greatest risk to these people, to the children, is from authority raiding the place and shooting up the house with everyone in it. Or criminals feeling that they can go rob these people and take their stuff because it's illegal, because they're evil, all that stuff. That's a greater risk, far more than from having the cannabis there, from any health aspect of it. It's also again important to note that smelling growing marijuana is not going to get you high. It is not going to addict you to cannabis, aka marijuana. That's another falsehood that prohibitionists are spewing about, and is about as truthful as the lie that marijuana causes brain damage and kills you. We've got to rise above this flat earth mythology and philosophy that rules us on this issue. Because the clinical trial data yet again affirms that cannabis efficacy. Is it any wonder that the U.S. government fights tooth and nail to hinder researchers' attempts to conduct clinical trials assessing the therapeutic utility of cannabis as a medicine? After all, each and every time the federal government begrudgingly allows for such studies, they're faced with the credibility-shattering results. Yes?
One of these hearings that I went to, there was a prohibition who was on the board, did a testimony, and she used a Reader's Digest thing from the 70s. Can you explain about her dead monkey routine?
Yeah, that was Representative Betsy Close, Republican from Albany, who on the Senate Bill 281 testimony offered that they shouldn't allow veterans They shouldn't allow PTSD in. They shouldn't allow relief for veterans because marijuana causes brain damage and damage to sex organs. And this person that she knew, he was a real loser, and it was all marijuana's fault that he was a real loser. As for the proof that marijuana causes brain damage and damage to sex organs, she offered up a 1974 Reader's Digest story that outlined what we refer to as the dead monkey scam. The dead monkey scam comes from a supposed research that was done concerning cannabis. In this research, researchers took a chamber, put some monkeys in it, filled it with marijuana smoke, so much that they eventually passed out. Heck, they freaking died. And then they cut open the monkeys' heads and showed people that this is what your brain looks like on marijuana. This is your brain on drugs campaign, very famously proclaimed out throughout the land then. The problem is that it wasn't your brain on drugs, particularly marijuana, it was your brain on suffocation. Later studies proved that monkeys put into a chamber where they simply removed the air showed the exact same characteristics when dissected and their brains examined. Unfortunately, the truth of the story never made the same press that the original dead monkey story did, that proclaimed that to prove how marijuana causes brain damage and kills and all that other reefer madness nonsense. So yeah, that was the testimony and the evidence and stuff to presented, and I'm sure we'll see more reefer madness stuff like that before we're through. But it's important that you, John Jane citizen, don't buy into this. It's important that you contact your representatives and speak to them on the truth of this, so that when the prohibitionists come to them with their lies prior to voting on Senate Bill 281, they'll have what you told them about the truth of the matter concerning cannabis as medicine. And certainly as to the need for it, how this class of folks, these veterans in particular, are going through a hard time trying to get benefits at all from the federal government. And this issue only makes things worse. So it would be a tremendous amount of relief especially for veterans, to be able to have this, not just for the cannabis medicine itself, but for the symbolism of having that extra little bit of protection for whatever may happen to them, be it law enforcement encounter or child protective services coming by. No telling. Please support your local veteran by contacting your representatives in the Oregon State Legislature and tell them to vote yes on Senate Bill 281 to add PTSD to the OMMP. While folks are at it, of course, you'll also have the dispensary bill that's in the Oregon House. We talked about that earlier. It would license and regulate medical cannabis dispensaries in the state. This is House Bill 3460. It's an interesting thing because they talked about it would require the estimated 150 dispensaries currently operating a state to obtain a license from the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. Well, that's odd because there is no legal dispensaries. There's a number of places that are trying to network medicine to folks in various ways. But it's a misnomer to say that there's dispensaries here. So the laws require the patients and caregivers under the existing law. Medical cannabis dispensaries will be required to test for pesticides, mold, and mildew and comply with security guidelines. They would be prohibited from operating in residential areas or within 1,000 feet of a school. Well, that's different than the regular home guards that they're also trying to ban. The bill is currently before the House Health Care Committee, which has scheduled a public hearing for it's coming up next week, April 16th, we believe. Chief sponsors of the bill are Representative Peter Buckley and Senator Floyd Prozansky. So that's the Oregon dispensary bill that's happening. Also, West Virginia holds hearings on medical cannabis. A bill that would establish a medical cannabis program in West Virginia got a hearing before the state's House Health and Human Resources Committee, and if enacted, the House Bill 2961 in West Virginia, called the Compassionate Medical Marijuana Use Act of 2013, would allow qualifying patients to possess up to 6 ounces of marijuana and cultivate up to 12 plants. The state would license 11 dispensaries, 5 by the end of the first year and another 6 by the end of the second. A January poll by Public Policy Polling found a majority of West Virginia voters support safe access by a 13-point margin, with 53% in favor and 40% opposed. West Virginia has the nation's highest disability rate. Also, New York considers medical cannabis again. If enacted, the New York would have a regulated system of cultivation and distribution to qualified patients. The New York Assembly has passed similar bills in the past, only to see them blocked by lawmakers in the Senate. The bill supporters also face opposition from Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democrat, who said that in the past that he believes the dangers of abuse outweigh the therapeutic benefits. Also, Maryland moves to protect caregivers and add distribution. Caregivers in Maryland may soon share the affirmative defense protection afforded qualified patients in the state. On April 1st, the State House, on a vote of 95 to 37, approved Senate Bill 580, which was passed unanimously in the Senate on March 14th. If signed by Governor Martin O'Malley, caregivers in possession of an ounce or less of cannabis could have charges dismissed if they could present evidence that they were assisting a qualified patient. Under Maryland law, neither patients nor caregivers are protected from arrest, but patients charged with an ounce or less of cannabis can present evidence of medical need to the court and get charges dismissed. Patients charged with the cultivation or possession of more than 1 ounce can argue medical need and receive a reduced sentence. There is no mechanism for legally obtaining any amount of medical cannabis in Maryland, but the Senate is now considering House Bill 1101, which would assist the framework for a highly restricted distribution system through academic medical centers. Whether any hospitals would participate remains to be seen. The five most prominent candidates, Johns Hopkins Hospital and the University of Maryland Hospital, have each said they will not, according to the state's Department of Legislative Services. Also, New Hampshire medical cannabis bill advances, and Massachusetts issues draft regulations. But the big news, we suppose, would be that ASA petitions D.C. Circuit to review rescheduling appeal. Suit argues federal government should reclassify cannabis as having medical use. So, Americans for Safe Access, or ASA, which last month asked the Federal Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. to reconsider its lawsuit over the federal classification of cannabis, ASA petitioned the United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit to have either the original three-judge panel or the full court review its suit that seeks to reclassify cannabis. In January, the appeals court ruled in ASA versus Drug Enforcement Administration that the government did not act arbitrarily or capriciously in denying the most recent petition to reschedule cannabis. ASA appealed the DEA decision, arguing that the more than 200 peer-reviewed studies on medicinal cannabis show that there are accepted medical uses. In denying the appeal, the court deferred to this DEA's definition of what counts as, quote, adequate and well-controlled studies, unquote. The DEA concedes that the research cited in ASA's appeal suggests cannabis can be therapeutically beneficial for a variety of conditions, but says that no research to date meets the standard needed for new drug approval. And they go about denying any research to happen by those standards. Meeting that standard requires successful completion of multiple phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials, the type of double-blind, placebo-controlled studies involving thousands of patients that are usually reserved for pharmaceutical companies trying to market a new drug. The effectiveness of cannabis in treating a host of serious medical conditions has been demonstrated by repeated, careful scientific studies as well as centuries of doctor-patient experience, said ASA Chief Counsel Joe Elfrond, who argued the appeal before the D.C. court. Even if there were a company interested in paying for them, the type of large-scale trials they're demanding are made impossible by the government's refusal to authenticate such research or provide the cannabis necessary to conduct it. ASA argues the DEA cannot apply different criteria to marijuana than to other drugs, ignore clinical scientific data, misrepresent clinical scientific research, or rely upon unsubstantiated assumptions, as the DEA has done in this case. If the D.C. Circuit Court rejects ASA's request for rehearing or review, the case can be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that just may happen. Well, let's take a look at our little chat room, see if anybody's saying hello or visiting us. It doesn't look like it. So we'll go back to our regularly scheduled show, already in progress. Do we have any more questions or comments from the Peanut Gallery tonight? Well, I guess it would be a good time to talk about medicating, different modes of medicating with cannabis. Some scenarios, some cases we have heard recently, folks wanting to get a hold of, Rick Simpson oil, or hemp, the Rick Simpson hemp oil, as it's sometimes referred to, which is a concentrate, a cannabis concentrate. It has cannabis placed in a restricted area, oil is pushed through it, it extracts the cannabis on its way through, and you end up with a highly concentrated form there. That some folks, in some cases, has been a viable part of people surviving their cancer, among other serious, life-threatening, debilitating conditions that folks have been through. So it's gotten a lot of press, probably more myth than magic to it, but we definitely, there's no denying that it's a safe and in many cases efficacious part of the therapy for cannabis, whether it's dealing with the chemo, the nausea from that, the pain from it, the spasticity, whether from the cancer itself or from treatments to deal with it, whether chemo or other medications that can affect folks sometimes adversely. But the Rick Simpson oil is not the only way to make an oil, nor is it the only way to concentrate the cannabis. We've had a number of folks contact us about, as we said, the Rick Simpson oil for cancer, for tumors, for some other things. Yeah.
Well, we got PK's healing oil, which is a extra virgin olive oil, concentrated over 10 years, curing, added to new cannabis and plenty of olive oil. It takes, when you're starting to make up this mixture, it takes 28 days to first make up the mash. You apply it where your joints are aching or you feel pain on your sinuses to clear up your sinuses or your headache. back of your neck. You can cook with it. You can use it with your salad dressing.
Could also be applied, like I was saying, topically, and that is the case that we had here most recently. We were talking with folks about someone that was experiencing a lot of pain. It was topically, though. Something along the back, at the top, their base of the neck, basically joint and muscle there, where taking the concentrated cannabis in that form and applying it there directly was providing some immediate and long-term relief for folks. The good thing about applying the cannabis, the concentrated cannabis, in this mode is that the THC is not going to really affect you, affect the patient in that manner. So you're not going to cop a buzz. You're not going to get high off of rubbing cannabis oil on you, even though it's highly concentrated there.
It's a lot different than smoking or vaporizing the cannabis.
Or eating it. Oh, excuse us. So that's something that we really wanted to get out to folks, that you can make the concentrate in the oil form, which is a matter of taking your medicine, putting it in a container, and then filling the container with, as PK was saying, virgin olive oil, pretty much all kinds of oil.
It has to be a sealed container.
Yeah, and when they seal it up after you put it in. You can use canola oil, coconut oil, apple seed oil, grapeseed oil. Those all work also. The important thing is to agitate it or stir it up on a regular basis. You're going to want to get it all mixed in there and extracting through it. So yeah, just put the medicine in there, fill the rest with your extractor oil or what you're having. Let it sit in a cool, dark place. Well, it doesn't have to be cold. It can be just room temperature. But you don't want the sun shining on it. And you do want to, again, stir it up, agitate it. After 30 days, you pour out a portion of it.
You just use it there. Take out a little portion, fill up a container, run it through a strainer. So you take all the particles of the cannabis that's in the oil out, so you just have a pure oil to rub on.
You can then use that cloth, though, that you're straining it with as a poultice also, by the way. So a lot of different applications for that, relatively easy to make, and folks should be aware of it, particularly in that you can apply it topically if you've got migraine, pressure, headaches, pain there. Just rub it into that area there. Some folks having respiratory issues found it rubbed on to the chest area there, working just like Bengay or vapor rub there. Also with joint pains and skin conditions too.
Carpal tunnel is what I have.
So that's a kind of muscle and tendon joint pain condition. And as we said, that the toxicity or the effect of getting high is much reduced, much negated. In fact, I've never heard of anybody getting buzzed off of using it topically like that, no matter how concentrated it is. So we'll get the word out on that. That's a viable part of the process for folks to be able to get their medicine, be able to utilize it, in the best manner for them. So folks going out in the world, working regular jobs, driving around, doing other fun things, should be able to use this oil, to be able to use it topically to rub it on and function throughout the day without the concerns as if you were smoking or eating it there. So be advised on that. This and other fun things, certainly recipes, we have down here at the Mercy Center, both in the Mercy newsletter as well as in the Oregon Cannabis Connection. And come on down, check it out. Give us a call, visit us on the web. We are here, mercycenters.org. And this also is another opportunity, the weekly meeting happening every Wednesday here at 1745 Capitol Street Northeast in Salem. The zip code is 97301. We're also open Monday through Friday, noon to 6, at the same address. Should also let folks know about the Sweet Home meetings, just in case you know somebody there. That is the first Monday of the month, again at 7 p.m. It's the American Legion Hall, as we talked about earlier in our events section. We're also, as we're working on cannabis law reform, as we're helping to folks network, do outreach and help desk at a number of levels. Not only do we help individuals to take care of themselves or loved one, as the case may be, but try to help folks get organized or help groups of people to do the same thing that we do here at Mercy, which is network. It is getting folks together. One has some excess, one has some needs, working cooperatively to share and to help out. It doesn't really cost anything to share some information, or seeds, or extra clones, or even the excess medicine when you've reached harvest time, and before the medicine's cured and usable, distributing what is going to put you over your limits. I think the hallmark, though, of the organization here at Mercy, the Medical Cannabis Resource Center, is being able to find a garden sitter. If you suddenly get called away for something, having somebody who knows what they're doing and knows what not to do, being reliable, confidentiality, propriety, all these things being observed, I would say is priceless. But it will only happen with these nonprofits like Mercy. So that's your best reason for checking us out, whether here on TV, coming back to Channel 23 when we have the shows on some more, or visiting us on the web at mercycenters.org, or coming on down and seeing us at the office here, 1745 Capitol Street, Monday through Friday, noon to 6. There are all ways to find out how you, as a citizen, can get involved, or you can set up a business to maximize the opportunities, or hopefully set up your own neighborhood group, your own nonprofit type of activity, because when you network everybody in your neighborhood as best you can, you're going to find out that everybody's boat rises, including yours. So that the best way to line up resources for yourself is to line up resources for everybody. Contact us at Mercy and we'll help you with that, because that's what we do, what we're about. Don't take my word for it, though. Check us out on the web, mercycenters.org. Or come on back here to Channel 23. Again, Fridays at 7, we have our live TV call-in. That'd be a good opportunity for you to call in with your medical cannabis related question, comment, curse, or kudo. if you don't have the email capabilities, if you can't make it down to the center, that is a good time and place to pose your question or point out the obvious, even if it seems like it to you, to what's happening and what we should be doing. I mean, there's more than just the Senate Bill 281, which is adding PTSD to the OMP. We have a couple of dispensary bills. There's certainly some negative bills happening too. There's also a bill that wants to ban gardens, period, not just the commercial one or big gardens, from 1,000 feet within a school, which would pretty much ban them from all residential areas, really.
They already had that stipulation of having a garden too close to a school.
No, just in public view. We've been able to resist having that 1,000 feet of a school applied automatically to medical cannabis gardens. But I'm afraid this is an attempt to codify it to make sure it does apply to us. Just as some of the other things that we've seen, there was one floating around. They wanted to make it so that currently children can get with the program. They can get their medical cannabis card here in Oregon. Those under 18 with their parent or guardian's permission, yeah. And the prohibitionists wanted to make it so that children had to reapply every 6 months because it's evil and dangerous and all that other reefer madness nonsense. Yeah.
That is as bad as the one third petition on the 281, where they wanted the veterans to go back to their doctors every 60 days.
Yeah, that was one of the more heinous amendments to the Senate Bill 281 to add PTSD to the OMP. That was something that was done purely to try to kill the bill, and that was indeed to have the patients reapply every 60 days. And if we hadn't have stopped it, they probably would have tried to apply that to the whole program then. Because the people who put that suggestion, that amendment forth, are staunch prohibitionists. They've opposed the medical marijuana program ever since we, the people, voted it in here. And they're going to do everything possible to kill it until we de-elect or otherwise disempower these folks. And here's how we identify them. By those who vote no or encourage others to vote no on Senate Bill 281, which is to add PTSD to the OMP. Yeah.
Or be sleeping on the panel.
Right, you can tell them that because they're the ones sleeping before they voted no. They're also the ones that get up and walk out on veterans while they're testifying, as to the troubles that they're going through, all the hardships they face. Yeah, you really couldn't have been more scornful, disdainful, contemptuous of these veterans, of these good people, if you urinated in their poor, upturned little pleading faces, So it's not easy to watch that, but it really inspires us to go out and make sure that every person's touched. Every person knows they need to contact their legislator and get them to vote yes on SB 281. They need to call around everybody they know, get them to do it too, get them to call everybody they know. Let's get a whole chain letter. Now's the time for a chain email. And whoever you send it to, get them to send it out to 10 people, get them to send it out to 10 people. It says, hey, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, folks should have cannabis for it here in Oregon. And it doesn't happen now. A lot of folks, oh, you mean it's not? No, it's not. So we have to do something to make it happen. We all got to do it together, and that is contact our legislators. It will probably first go to the Senate and then go to the House. So you want to talk to your senator, then your representative. If you don't know who your representative is, again, visit us on the web, give us a call, come down and visit. We'll look that up, and get that to you. Yeah.
Didn't you say earlier the 281 was sent to the House now?
It's moving to the floor for a vote. I believe it will go to the Senate first and then the House for the vote, the floor vote. I may have that backwards. It may go to the House first. In any case, yeah, the folks need to contact their representatives and senators wherever it's going. It will definitely have to go through both of them to pass. And we want you folks out there to get a hold of your reps before the prohibitionists have a chance to taint them with their lies, because then we'll be fighting uphill trying to bet. We want to be there first. We want to take the high ground and make them come in and try to prove the BS, their excuses for not doing this, for not providing relief for police and firefighters and rape victims and crime victims and accident survivors and emergency care workers and social health care workers and again, the veterans. Wow, you know, it's a matter of life and death for many of these people. A number of folks testifying already on Senate Bill 281, a number of veterans testifying. They were there for a half dozen of their comrades who didn't make it. You know, they couldn't survive the nightmares and the crapola and everything that you go through when having PTSD and having to deal with the U.S. government and everything there. And so they terminated their lives one way or another, whether immediately or through alcohol abuse and you know, traffic accidents and other means whereby we're losing these good people because they're being denied a safe, effective medicine. And we can change that by contacting representatives and telling them to vote yes on SB 281. So we'll be wrapping this up here in a few minutes. I want to remind folks this is Mercy, the Medical Cannabis Resource Center. We are a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization working to outreach, to inform, educate, and activate people on and through the medical cannabis issue here in Oregon, across America, and around the world. To this end, we have programs and services that do outreach, help desk, and networking to folks in order to get their card, to find medicine now, to get a grower in the long term or get growing themselves, best methods on medicating, and changes, whether they need to change something as simple as the grow site address or their address or their name, or it's changes to the program like the fee hike. That's something that we'll talk more about with the Advisory Committee on Medical Marijuana, meets in June. Hopefully we'll have some more positive information about that from Representative Buckley. But we'll see. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. Yeah.
Will the sunset of clause come into effect in the next meeting that we have?
I don't know. The Oregon Medical Marijuana Program administrators have steadfastly denied that the June 1st sunset clause mentioned in the original fee hike bill has any bearing or meaning, that we are to ignore that, it's not happening, forget it even exists. But when we were asked of Representative Buckley about it, he said he had never heard or seen of that, of the counter fee hike proposals or any of those things, or of the hardship going through, or any of the statistics on what it really means in actual real dollars to the state. Much less to the citizens of Oregon. You know, you're jacking up the monies here, but then we're paying out the buku bucks because people aren't with the program. Now we're running them through the justice system like we said we didn't want to do when we put up the law in the first place. Folks need to be aware of it, and to, you know, when you get a chance, let's make a change, make a difference. We're definitely not going to see a fee hike change without everybody contacting their legislators. It's a legislative thing, and we're really going to have the same kind of effort that we do for Senate Bill 281, really. And it's a good tie-in too, because wow, you know, so what, these veterans can now apply for a card. Now these guys and gals have got to dig up this $500 that it takes to get your card here in Oregon. And, you know, it's quite a hardship, and then they've got to go through the thing of getting a grower or finding somebody to grow for it, finding this
doctor.
their doctor, well, and then finding medicine now in the short term, growing themselves, all these things that the rest of the community has to face. It's not any easier for these folks. So just allowing it, just changing the law, just voting for SB 281, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's not the end of their difficulties, but it's a good start. So we encourage folks to definitely contact your representative in the Oregon State Legislature. Tell them yes on Senate Bill 281. That's it for now here at the Mercy Weekly Meeting. Thanks everybody for attending, both online and off, and we'll see you next time here on Mercy TV. Bye now.
Register to vote if you're not registered now.
Registered and vote, or we get the same old crud. And vote smart. Know who voted what on Senate Bill 281 and the rest of the cannabis law reform bills, not just here in Oregon, but in the United States Congress and House too.
Thank you.